Thank you to Amy and Jen for having Mariah and I and the other teachers, and for Angela for so graciously recommending that we speak this evening. My name is Jamie Watson. I am a second grade distant learning teacher at Still Meadow. And, Mariah kind of hit the nail on the head. It's all about that sense of community. And, it is an unprecedented time. And, 23 weeks in, which is hard to believe, 97 days, because I'm counting, because we do the 100th day. It's crazy to think that I've been looking at a screen for that many days. But, having a sense of community, is our biggest thing, making sure that the kids are socially and emotionally, there with us, because we can't give hugs and we can't, give a handshake or things that we're teachers used to doing, and holding their hand when things are frustrating. That you kind of have to go into this thinking that you need supportive families, and you need the support of staff, and you need the support of the kids, and it's like a whole team effort, I feel. And the beginning was definitely rough, establishing routines, and getting kids into understanding how to log in, and when to log in, and those took a very long time, probably close to a month. But again, 23 weeks in, I can say, and I'm sure Mariah can also agree, that, and the other teachers, we're experts. We are the wave of the future. We kind of know technology in a way that other kids may be used to, knowing now, or learning, as we continue on in remote learning. But we've established those routines. So we see kids in AM and PM groups. We split up our kids, just so that we don't burden these families with trying to get their kids logged in at different times throughout the day. And it seems to have worked. The kids are familiar with their routines, their schedules. They know how to log in. We've established delay opening schedules, early release schedules, and we see kids in two different settings. We see them in the AM for some, and it's about 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes, give or take. And then we see a PM group. And then I'm sure Mariah also does, a morning meeting to continue to build a sense of community, to get kids comfortable with speaking in a computer on a little square like we are now. They are elementary school kids, so that took a lot of adapting to, and making them feel comfortable. And I think, Mariah and I have been doing a good job at establishing that sense of calmness and kindness in our classroom, and being patient and being flexible with technology. As we all know, it can kind of come and go. So it's been definitely, a roller coaster of emotions on my end, a roller coaster of emotions on the kids' end. But if you connect with the parents and you ease them into things, and you make them a part of your classroom, I think that helps overall for the kids' well-being, and for your calmness as you're teaching with them in the background. I hold parent monthly meetings just to kind of keep them afloat to what's happening, whether it's assessment windows or things that I need their help in. And they've been 100% on board. I have open door hours during the week for parents to come in for questions. I have open hours for kids to come in if something is a little bit more difficult, and I'm sure with the other teachers and Mariah and I, we work during our prep. We, invite kids in during those times, even when it's not an assigned time, just to make sure they know that we're there for them. And I think that's really the most important part in this type of environment, is making sure that we still have that sense of school and normalcy for them. And I think that we've been able to establish that. So it's been a really positive thing for us, or for me too. So thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jillian now. Jillian's joining us from a middle school perspective from Clunan.
Thanks. So I had to write mine down. I'm not as poignant as you guys are in talking off the cuff. So I am currently a 6th grade science teacher, and I'm also the administrative intern over at Clunan. So after last year's experience, I was cautiously optimistic about distance learning. As someone who prides myself on the ability to connect with students, I found starting this year without meeting my students face-to-face overwhelming and unnerving. Conceptualizing what this year could potentially bring fed into my anxieties and overall fear as a teacher. As it is with most anxieties, the thought of what ifs are much more overwhelming than what actually presented itself. What I had before me was brand new 6th grade middle schoolers nervous about starting a new year with new teachers, and now from their home instead of a classroom. It was an incredible opportunity. Very soon after meeting these students, I was acutely aware of how thirsty they were to learn and to be seen. In the spring, I was faced with students whom I already personally knew and could read their faces and expressions as if they were in my classroom. This, however, was a much different experience, but profound nonetheless. As soon as Google opened up breakout rooms, I knew that that was my opportunity. I was able to take the time and meet with the students individually and in small groups. We set goals for ourselves, reflected on projects, tests, and even my teaching style. Each of these moments were times for us to bond and get to know each other better. And I especially appreciate these moments because I got to see their full expressions. Now, this took a little longer and can't replace the natural bond that was made within the classroom prior, but it served us well and has created a fun and exciting learning environment. With that being said, there has certainly been some challenges in this process, and like with any new technology, things take time, patience, and a willingness to learn. I've used my classroom like a test lab. I've thrown everything at them: virtual experiments, field trips, Jamboards, group projects, collaborative work, and even snow day activities. Some days it works really well, and it feels like the students have progressed far beyond my wildest expectations, and some days it doesn't. Managing my expectations and theirs has been difficult at times. Like many teachers, I stay up at night thinking of ways to make science come alive. And every day I'm impressed at how resilient and willing they are to try new things. One of the greatest things about this process has been the support that I've received from the parents. In trying to live stream, they've made their students available to me every day. They've been patient with my lessons that don't go as planned, and have emailed in with lessons that have gone really well. In all the struggles, my goal remains the same: to create a space that's conducive to learning, to laugh with the kids, and try to make it fun.
Thank you, Jillian. And I would argue that you are as poignant as Mariah and Jamie. Very nicely done. And I'm going to turn it over now to Esther, who's coming to us from the other end of our spectrum in high school. And when I asked Ray Manka for a recommendation, he immediately knew exactly who he was going to go ask, and he wouldn't tell me who it was. But I was very excited to hear that it was Esther and that she agreed and that she's here with us tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you again for having me. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Zareen, would you be able to?
Right, I'm just trying to do that. Yep.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see. There you are. So I'll have to make you host, and I think then you'll be able to share it.
Okay.
Can you try and share it, and then I'll try and take it back as a host just to see if that works?
Okay, so share computer sound optimized. Okay. Cancel them. Sorry, let's try that again. So welcome, this is what it's like. This is the reality of teaching online and such. And you know what, I'm actually gonna, can you see my screen? Yes, awesome. Okay, so I'm a visual person, and my hands move around a lot when I talk. I am an ESL teacher at Stanford High School. I have the opportunity to teach both hybrid and distant learning, in the sense that my hybrid students join my distant learning students together at the same time. And that is the structure of my, my teaching and my class periods. I'm sharing with you pictures. Pictures tell 1,000 words. And so hopefully this helps you understand part of the reality and the shift that's happened with teaching hybrid and distant learning together. This is my classroom, part of my classroom. The desks are a lot together. That's not normal, but this is what it looked like when I came back from the summer break. This is a picture of us last year. I tend to have this sort of communal space with my students, and we're in a circles. That way we can see each other, converse, share ideas and thoughts and so forth. And this is more of what my reality is now. There's less bodies in the classroom, more faces on a screen. This student here does not have a computer, but if you come in now, everybody has a computer. All my classes are treated as if they are distant learning classes. So students that are home on a green day, when it's a blue day, everybody is streaming live together. A lot has shifted in how we function within our space, how we do things, reading. For instance, I pulled up these pictures of, these are students that are reading. They're using an app to read some graphic novels that we were exploring. And that's different altogether. We're not touching books, sharing books, and communicating in that sense. Also group time, working together has shifted. Where the student here, you can't tell that, but he is working with another student online. He's interviewing another student and taking notes for a presentation. And in that sense, he is on two screens because one of his screens, one of his computers did not work. So he had to shift and go into another screen. And that's a shift from our former reality where we were able to bring our desks together and share and talk and do group work. So a lot of what I had to deal with is understanding how to move from what my traditional view of teaching was into this new space. Like a lot of teachers, I was asked to do this, not really understanding how much I needed to put in and what the effort would be. And I went on learning, and I'm still learning as I go. So a lot of my presentations and a lot of my classes are recorded for students. It's live, but also recorded, and a lot of their presentations are recorded. So the use of technology is extensive in this platform, not only for myself, but for the students also. I don't know if you can tell this, but I have a screen here. There's another screen on the other side. This is my laptop. On the other side of this pole is a camera that also broadcasts. There's a camera on this computer. The other camera is attached to the dual screen that's on the back end of that pole. So screens are everywhere. I'm constantly dual screening so that I can manage the group that's online, manage the students that are in front of me, and also make sure that everybody's on task. So I'm looking at some of the documents that they're working on as they're working on them. So it's a lot of multitasking that goes into that, into teaching in this current day. So it's a great experience. I agree a lot with a lot of what the other people, other teachers have said. It's an awesome experience. It's been an adventure, but it's full of challenges as all of us are facing right now. Oftentimes, one of the biggest challenges for me is understanding space. And I mentioned this earlier, my own space that I created in the classroom for my students has shifted. And now I also have to take into account the spaces that they're in. There are times where I'm teaching and I can hear their siblings in class behind them. There's no such thing as this quiet cocoon where we can all learn together in this space that I have, but rather it's little pods and understanding how it is for them to come to class and what that means. And it's also a complete redefinition of learning, honestly, for them. So I'm open to questions at the end, and I hope this helped you understand what my world is like right now. So I'm gonna stop sharing. And I hope that, yep, we're good.
Thank you, Esther. I'll turn it over to you, Jennifer. I don't know if you want to go right into the parents and then do questions at the end.
Yes, I think that's what we'll do. And sorry, I'm trying to manage this hosting thing as well at the same time. So I apologize. I'm multitasking here. This technology, right? This is just what we're all kind of living with. So up first, and I appreciate everything that the teachers have shared with us. I think we are aware that this is, a challenge as well as an opportunity to, kind of teach in a different way. So we appreciate the work that you've put into it. We know teachers are working harder than ever. And, thank you for everything. I'm sure I speak for many, many parents when I say that we appreciate everything you've been doing. And I wanted to also hear from some parents who, have the challenge of, having children in the school system when they're learning from home and not physically in a school space, physically with a teacher and with other students. So the question is, how do you build a sense of community when you're distance learning? So first, we're going to hear from Yolande Ford, who is a parent of a Stark student. And then we'll turn it over to Lee Morefoot, who's a parent of Rogers student.
Good evening. I have to say that my husband and I, we thought about, what was the best option for our family. And this was it. Coming from last March to where we are now, it's a total 180-degree change. And I really appreciate my first graders teacher, Miss Mandel at Stark. She does a fantastic job with these first graders. So, if you can imagine what a first grader is like inside of a classroom, imagine what a first grader is like sitting at a computer like this for hours a day. Okay. But the thing about it is that she still has that classroom management, and she does such a good job. And the communication that she has with the parents, I know with myself, as a matter of fact, I just talked to her Monday on the phone. And so, she has this, Tuesday, she has this way of, making sure that the parents are caught up, and that she's always making sure that the kids have what they need. She'll send us an email saying, hey, this is what they'll need for tomorrow. And one of the things that she has done is that periodically she will ask us to come pick up some work. Like, she'll have a complete folder printed out for us, and we'll turn in some completed work, and then we'll pick up some work that they need to do. And then she'll tell us, okay, get this out of the green folder or get this out of the brown folder. And so she's very organized like that. Of course, we had some hiccups at the very beginning, but one thing that I know that she said Tuesday was that the kids do so well with knowing the times. She'll tell them, okay, it's time for your special, go to your special at 10:05 or 10:15, and then come back to me at 11:15. And the kids they've taken that responsibility on, and it's been really, really good. Even during lunch, they'll have an hour for lunch, and then they'll come back at 1 o'clock. I'll hear all these little bells ringing as the kids are coming back into their classroom. And so, and it's just a joy to see that my child, she can work independently like that, and to see so many of her classmates being able to do that, because I had my doubts, this is a first grader, right? Sitting at a computer, but they have all of this interactive stuff going on. They're writing and they're coloring, and, so it's kind of like being in a classroom, but not really. Now I will say that, of course, that interaction, that personal interaction is not there, if she was in a classroom. And that's something that, we kind of expected, and you can't really do a whole bunch about that. But one of the things that, or a few of the things that Ms. Mandel does is that she does, of course, the morning meetings, and it's like the circle time that they have, and they'll talk about the weather and they'll talk about the calendar, and then she has a question of the day. And so, it causes the kids to think about, would they want to be a princess? Would they want to be a cowgirl? And so having, that type of interaction is also good. What she also does on Fridays is that all the kids can have lunch together. So she'll leave the room open so the kids can eat lunch together, and they look forward to that. Another thing that they did at Stark, they had a crazy hair day this past week. And so it was a competition to see which class was going to complete all of their Lexia, to do all of it, okay, meet all their minutes. And actually their class was one of the 2 classes that won. And so they were so excited because what they got to do was they got to tell Mr. Claps how he was going to wear his hair for that day. So he had this rainbow colored hair, and, they were so excited because, our class won. And so, things like that. And then I see that even when they get off of the, they sign off at any time. It could be for lunch. It could be for specials. It could be for the end of the day. Everybody's saying bye, bye. And they're calling everybody by name. And, it takes them like 2-3 minutes to get off. Bye, so-and-so, bye, so-and-so, bye, so-and-so. And so, she's created that type of atmosphere, which has been good. Now, we are looking forward to having more of that social interaction, hopefully this coming fall. But, we are doing the best that we can with what we have right now. And I think that I know that this was the best choice for our family at this time. And so Ms. Mandel has done a wonderful job in, keeping them together. And then totally academics are on point. So, that's not even a question. She has them where they need to be.
Thank you, Yolande. And now I will turn it over to Lee Morfoot, who has a student at Rogers.
I actually have 2 boys, a 3rd grader and a 4th grader at Rogers. I have 4 kids altogether, and the other ones are teenagers. So I actually think that that's really helpful at my house, that we have a lot of people and that they're all boys, and they can kind of go outside and play soccer for an hour and stuff like that. And so when I talk to people who, don't have so many kids, I feel lucky because there is socializing going on at my house. But with the Rogers kids, I have to say, I feel really lucky that it ended up being that the DTLA was within the homeschool, which hadn't been what was going to happen when we were talking over the summer. Because, my kids started at Rogers in kindergarten, and I think that it's been really helpful for them to be with their Rogers community. They're with teachers that their brothers had, that they've known and wanted to have as teachers. So it really feels like they're a part of the community. And then Rogers has done a really nice job at bringing the DTLA into, the whole holistic community experience. So recently, actually, we have the PTO started an anti-racism committee, and that group put together, had kids make short 2-minute videos about, a notable Black person from history. And my kids did the videos, and they felt very proud, like the hybrid kids, to have their videos up. And, the videos were put on Good Morning Terrapins, which is like the news show that Rogers has. And, kids were talking about, great video, Felix. And, they feel like, even if a lot of their kid friends are hybrid, connected. Like Yolande, I think that the issue of my kids not having the daily interaction with teachers, whether it's kids sometimes just need to like kind of vent to a teacher or connect with a teacher, and my kids don't have that. And I think it was hard for me to get to a point where I realized that even though as third graders and fourth graders, they were totally capable of doing all of the work that they were given on their own, that they really needed that adult to just sit next to them and, answer a question or, help guide them in how to do an assignment, which they really knew how to do. It's just that they wanted the personal interaction. And so it's been nice. It's nice for me now that I've come to a place where I realize, every day I just need to be patient and get with them on that, even if they could do their work. And I know part of the reason why I know they can do the work is because, they never miss a meet. I leave the home to do work often, and my teenagers take care of the kids. And never do my kids miss a meet because they're so excited to hook up with the teachers and be with the classroom and do the work there. But sometimes they just can't figure out this, worksheet or, inquiry unit. So I guess I feel like it's important as parents that we recognize that we have a responsibility in that too. And I just wanted to say too that as parents of boys, I think it's easier sometimes for them to connect with other kids through video games. My third and fourth graders do play video games pretty much every day with kids in their class. And so they'll have my phone for FaceTime or computer for Zoom. And so they'll be able to have the monitor there talking to their friend and then actually be playing the video game with their friend too. And I think that that's something that is pretty cool that boys get to do to stay together during this time. That's it.
Thank you all so much for sharing your experiences. I know I have questions, but I did want to open it up to our audience to see if anybody has a question. If you want to raise your hand, I can call on you. We're taking questions live, so. Well, I can start then. So I guess my first question is for Jamie and Mariah. I know for younger kids especially, it's really important to have a routine. And I think one of the hardest things when we have been doing the distance teaching and learning for my first grader has been that, kind of getting into a routine, because she's hybrid, so she does something different every other day, and so that it's a little disruptive. And where I think the benefit for the DTLA is that you're doing the same thing every day, ideally. So I'd just like to know, kind of some specifics about how you do end up creating those routines for your students.
Mariah, I'll take this one if you want. It's a lot at the beginning to establish those routines. And like you said, which I wanted to actually mention when I was speaking, is the consistency is really, really key in distant learning. That's our big, thing in terms of, in elementary school, getting that consistency, that instruction, that scaffolded instruction, that small group instruction on a daily basis, rather than, every other day still getting really meaningful instruction, just not being in front of a teacher every day necessarily for a longer period of time, even though I know a lot of them are live streaming. And so it was a big challenge at the beginning of the year to establish those routines, to get kids independent and familiar with, logging in. And, at least for me, I have many different Google Meet links and they're locked so that kids aren't just joining and staying on, because that also is another thing you have to be careful of, is making sure kids aren't in meets without a teacher. And so establishing all of those norms at the beginning and having, big bright posters and things that they would in a classroom was something, we talked about and we established at the beginning of the year. And we still occasionally have to revisit those as we get more comfortable, but making sure that those routines stuck and that they knew how to do things. And, even being 7 and 8, it still had its challenges. And, there are moments where I, am concerned more about where they are and why than necessarily not logging in. I want to make sure that they're feeling okay, that there's nothing, not necessarily internet based or technology based that's troubling them, but that they're emotionally there for me, because that also is part of that routine. You don't want kids sitting like, we are in squares and notice, kids are really struggling emotionally and how to be there for them. And so establishing those routines and how to ask, and, so I do a daily check-in every day. And so they check in emotionally with me, and then I can meet up with them after hours or whatever, or have them stay on to develop those routines, because it's not just the routine of logging in. There's many routines these distant learners have to adapt to. So it's definitely had its share of struggles, but I think, every week is a new week towards a goal. And, a successful goal in their eyes makes it more meaningful for them, and they see that progress and they see the success. And, I think as teachers, that's kind of what we're all about, is just making sure they're feeling successful and they're happy and they're learning and they're engaged. And so I think, at least for us, it's definitely maintaining those routines, but it definitely took its time.
I just want to add to Jamie's. I mean, she basically, yes, nailed it. The beginning was a challenge, to be honest, for not only the children, but for parents. Not everyone is so technology savvy. I even, when I was in position, spent, many nights and weekends watching tutorials on how to make a movable banner on my Google Classroom, but the schedules are so specific, and they are so on point. At least I can speak for my kids, my kindergartners. Even if there's a delay, they know exactly what we're doing, when, and like what time. I had a little boy tell me today, Miss Conlon, we didn't do sentences. And I was like, that's okay. I was like, we had a delay, so we'll do them after music or whatever. But they know, they are so on. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly where to be. And, we have some great supportive families where I can see, timers in the background, where maybe mom and dad are either, a little farther away or working from home, and they set these timers for their children, so they know exactly, okay, time to log off with Miss Conlon, time to log in for my special. And it was fun the other day. One of my students actually held up his timer and he said, how much more time we have left? And his mom was like, you don't ask her that. You don't ask a teacher that. When she dismisses you, she dismisses you. And they're so real, and you hear these parents talking to them in the background. And it's just been such a great community experience. It really has. And at least the team at Still Meadow, we all have like a group chat, and we discuss struggles, we discuss positives and all different things, and we bounce ideas off each other, and we really we rely on each other, because this is new for all of us. There aren't any statistics on how to teach behind the computer. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, but right now that's not the case. And, you know, I really have nothing but wonderful things to say. And I said, you know, in the beginning, it was a challenge, like everything is a learning curve, but these kids are resilient and we figured it out. And I mean, they all just truly, truly love each other. I had a parent actually say to me the other day, she's like, you know, my son looks so forward to your class. She said, in our house, there is God and then there's Miss Conlon. And I was just thrown away by that. And, you know, comments, Miss Conlon, I love your hair. I mean, they're just the cutest, realest little ones. And we might be behind a computer, but it doesn't feel that way, at least not in my classroom. And that's our job. That's our duty as a teacher, to make sure that, you know, we instill this this belief and this confidence and this community in them that everything's going to be okay. You know, like everything is going to be okay. So, you know, kudos to what Jamie said. And like I said, I just have nothing but great things to say. It's a learning curve, but you figure it out.
Thank you for your honest and, you know, really hopeful answers. I know I was skeptical about the whole kindergarten on, you know, online after my experience last year, you know, from March to June. My kindergartner really withdrew, but we weren't, you know, we didn't have a routine. It wasn't, you know, kind of every day. We hadn't figured that out, how to do that. So I'm really glad to hear that it's working for you. That really makes me so happy to hear that. So thank you.
And that was really different last year. You know, luckily we have great administration that, you know, put these schedules together for us. We have meetings, we collaborate, we discuss, you know, the importance of talking with parents, of communicating with them. And, you know, I'm lucky to be at such a great school and to be with such a great team.
Okay, so we do have a question here from Nikita, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment, or I'm just looking for suggestions. My name is Nikita. My daughter Madison attends Rogers International. She's in the 3rd grade. Thank you for all the teachers that's on tonight. Ms. Theodore, thanks for your presentation. I love the visual because I haven't been in the classroom with any of the kids since March, so I miss it. So the visual is kind of like a flashback of like, oh my gosh, this is what a classroom looks like. And I almost dropped a tear because I haven't, you know, we're full distance, so I haven't seen it and walked her into class. I miss those, you know, first day rituals when the kids are nervous about going and meeting the teacher, and they're nervous about shaking your hands and getting to know you and meeting face to face. So I appreciate your time on putting together that visual. I really appreciate that. And Ms. Watson said something interesting when she said she had the parents' monthly meeting, and that I miss that connection with the teachers of having monthly meetings. We don't do that enough at Rogers, I think. I feel like I make the effort to kind of reach out to the teachers, but it kind of would be nice if we could have maybe a family night with the teachers and the parents of the distance learners, so we can hear. I'm sure that there's many challenges on the teacher side as many as the parent side, but it would be nice to get together. So my question for the teachers is, how can I bring this back, or what's the best way to present this to our school to say, hey, some of these things that you said tonight are great. I love when you said the students have lunch together once a week, you leave the Google open. As a mother, as a 3rd grader, and she's a girl, it's not as easy. I think Lee said her sons play video games. I have a daughter that likes to play with dolls. So girls isn't really going to get on Zoom and the Googles and connect that way. So I would love to bring this back to the administration and bring some of these suggestions and saying it's not too late. We're 23 weeks in. We are missing some of these deep connections that the kids have. Madison too, I feel like she's getting the classwork done, but I noticed that her social and emotional is kind of wavering. So I would like to get that and see what other parents at our school, maybe they're feeling the same way. And I think it's excellent, the morning meetings, just to have the kids introduce themselves. At our third grade, and especially my daughter's class, they don't have that opportunity. They just go right into class. And when class ends, the Google ends. And then it's just her and I. And I can tell you, having a third grader, a girl, she's like, Mommy, I'm over talking to you. I want to speak to someone my age, and trying to get the schedule with someone that meet and match our schedule it's a challenge. So I guess I'm just looking for direction. How can I bring this to the community to say, let's get these kids together. We know that they're doing the work, but they need that outlet to have someone their age to talk to.
Can I ask, so Nikita, I'm also class mom for the 4th grade, and then Katie Schaller's class mom for the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And we both did set up like a Zoom meet for the grade to pick up, I think at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And my son in 4th grade, that's the one I set it up for. There's not a lot of boys in the 4th grade distance learning. So he doesn't want to do that. But I think that it is difficult, and maybe this is, something that Amy Beldotti could help out with, at Rogers at least. I think what's difficult is that, like, one of the teachers said, you can't let the kids stay in the Google Meet by themselves. So
Yeah.
But at the same time, the kids want to be able to interact with each other.
Yeah.
So as a PTO, we did ask Kathy if we could set up the Google Meet, and she said, the Zoom Meet, she said, yes, but we can't market it. I can't have, my kid can't say in the Google stream, remember guys, there's this Google Meet, we can meet at 3:30. So it's hard because there's not any marketing for it going on. But I was also talking with a friend of mine who teaches at Stanford High, and she has a daughter in 3rd grade too. And that daughter plays dolls with her friends on Zoom. So they do actually like set out their dolls and they talk through it. I do wonder if there's any way that the district could help us sort of let the PTOs kind of facilitate this thing in a better way so that the kids remember. And I don't,
I do. I did speak to Katie about that, and the kids don't know about it because Madison was on it, and it was for about a week, and it was kind of close to the holidays, and then it stopped. And you're right, we can't market it. So listening to the teachers on here and speaking to other parents at different schools, I just want to get information. How are they able to stay on and do once a week and let the kids stay on with the teacher, and they all have lunch together, even if the teacher can be present for the kids and like listen out and let them talk and giggle. Because in 3rd grade, they just go right into the work, and then when the class is over, it's done, and then there's a big break until the next class. So we also have to not only think about the work, but their social and their emotional, and that's where I'm struggling to get the connection.
Well, I'm happy. Why don't you and I go together to Kathy and see if we can make headway with that.
I love it.
Rajiv's on the phone too. I think he has a 3rd grader too, and I bet you'd like to get in on that also.
I was raising on the hand with the camera off, so that's a stupid thing. So let me put my camera back on. So yeah, we have a 3rd grader as well, and Rogers, Arushi, I think Nikita, I think your daughter's, I think in the same class. But so my daughter was, like from the full time moved into like a kind of hybrid for 3 months. And in December, we decided when the numbers went up to move into a completely online model. So that has been, from a kid's perspective, it has been challenging. She's a completely outdoor person. So if you want to send her out, it'll be like, okay, I can spend 8 hours outside. But now she's like in front of the computer. And I think most of us shared the same challenge, like sitting in front of the computer for almost 6 to 8 hours. The kids really get stressed. So she's trying to adjust, but I think, Nikita, I think your point is really valid. And I second your thought in having something which is, a common way where kids can gel and talk, or maybe have lunch together. So, yeah, that's, I'm with you on that.
If I may, I know that in the high school, at least at the beginning of the year, we had clubs that were meeting on Zoom. And I don't know if that would apply at the elementary level and what the regulations would be, but if it's set up as a club, is that a possibility for kids to be able to come together?
It is, Esther. It's definitely a possibility. I think it's just, that's why these kind of forums are so great, because people hear things that maybe are happening at other schools that, just maybe don't get shared colleague to colleague or school to school sometimes. And I think there are, small barriers. You don't maybe want a bunch of 8 or 9-year-olds in a room that's unsupervised, but that doesn't mean that there can't be a staff member or even a parent who's just kind of listening in the background. They don't have to be necessarily on the screen controlling the conversation or, manipulating the conversation or the interactions, but there can be someone there that's just kind of monitoring it so that, something wouldn't happen that was, hurtful or inappropriate. So we don't want to, but there are ways to do that. And certainly a club is one way. And I think there's also, ways to build it into the school day through lunch bunch, thinking about that in a different way, and other kind of social times that, can be built in. And this is great feedback for me too. I had the opportunity to talk to the principals all at one time. So often, right, Angela? And so, these are things that we can share and maybe just open up a dialogue about ways to help the DTLA kids feel community, feel connected, feel like they have a chance to talk with one another without it being solely academics every second.
Yeah, and that's a huge challenge still, with not having, not being able to be in the same room. Picture day. My child is so excited about picture day. She told one of her classmates, I finally get to meet you in person. And honestly, that broke my heart, because you should be able to see your classmates on a regular basis. And so, that is something that, and I know that we were thrown into this and, we've been in crisis mode for so long. But I do believe that that's something that administration can really, really beef up. If we are going into this, next year, or even if we're not, or, however the plan is, but to have a plan to put more emphasis into the social and emotional part of it. Because I think that having something a little more structured for the kids when it comes to that social aspect, because listen, they have lost coming up a whole year without each other. And so, this is their foundation. Well, at least my child, this is their foundation, time where, they need to have that belonging, and they need to have that, being able to, have that sense of being able to be with others and interact with others and learn how to interact with others. And so, I think that that's something that administration can beef up for next year, even if we're in a hybrid mode next year.
Yes, Gina.
Hi, a lot of familiar faces. I just wanted to say, Nikita, just treasure the doll days right now, because I have a boy, an 8th grader like Lee, and part of the gaming, it's nice because they do talk to their friends and, have been able to maintain some social connections. But when he was 9 or 10, I said, gee, childhood ends at 9 now because of all the video games. It's more of an issue with boys. I mean, some of his friends, I remember his friend's mom said in 5th grade, oh, I got rid of all the Legos. And it like made me want to cry that, you know, by 10 years old, they're not playing Legos. So there's some, you know, there's some positive aspect. We do have some after school extracurricular activities now that are online at Rogers, but it's not, you know, I guess they are more structured, not just freewheeling social. But I really love the idea of the check-in that you do, Ms. Watson, and I was curious about how you do that. I remember reading a really cool article once about a high school teacher who has students put on a whiteboard on Post-it notes, like how they feel every day. So, you know, she can kind of get a sense of the
Yeah,
room. So
it's so we're a ruler school, which is a social emotional initiative through Yale. And so we use something called a mood meter to kind of sense how the kids are feeling when they walk into the school. This was prior to COVID. When they walk into the school, they kind of plot themselves on a mood meter, red being and blue, sad, red being angry, yellow being kind of a little fidgety and excited, and green being pretty calm and cool and collected. And so I just kind of carry that into my distant learning class with a Google form. And I, you know, try to be as tech savvy as I can. Googled a lot at the beginning of the year to try and change it up every month. And I do daily check-ins. Kids are very honest. And again, that's building a sense of community at the beginning and making them feel comfortable to be able to share the emotion. And some kids are like, I'm struggling with the work. And some kids are like, I'm just so tired. And some kids are like, you know, you're the best teacher in the, you know, and it's really great to be able to have those open lines of communication that are honest and real. And so I do check-ins every day, and every day, you know, some days it's just, hey, we're feeling great. Some days it's feeling mad, but there's no comment. And so I still check in with them to kind of gauge if it's something going on within our classroom environment or outside of that, and how I can support them. But I've been doing it since September 8th, and it's been successful. And, you know, again, I think it just, as we all know as teachers, it's really building that sense of togetherness and making them feel calm. And, you know, with what our world is going through right now and how we're learning, you know, we all picked up on that tonight about, you know, not being able to hug them. And I think this is just a way of connecting with them in that sense, almost like that virtual hug. And so, you know, it's a simple Google form, and I have no problem sharing that with, you know, if Amy would like it or whomever, to be sharing that out.
it's really great. And the
Thanks.
3rd grade is doing that.
Linda has a question.
Hi, everybody. My name is Linda. I have a student at Stark. He's a 5th grader doing exclusively distance learning academy. And so I guess one of my questions, I think, is more geared for Dr. Beldotti. So like a big concern for me, having a child who's potentially who has been home for well over a year now doing distance learning, and who will be transitioning into a middle school and hasn't physically been in a building and hasn't physically had to sort of navigate that piece of it. Has the district started thinking about, or sort of like how we're going to help if, you know, we end up going back into the buildings, transition, or help support some of our students who've been out of buildings for well over a year potentially?
Yeah, we've been probably talking about that since November. It's something that we worry about too. And I don't know if worry is the right word, because I think we maybe we're past worrying now, because we feel like we're starting to kind of formulate some ideas and some plans for how to address that. You know, those transition years, so pre-K to kindergarten and 5th grade to 6th and 8th to 9th, are going to need some extra focus. We're also really there are 9th graders that have never seen their high school, 6th graders that have never seen their middle school, and they'll be going in now potentially next year, hopefully as 7th graders and 10th graders. And so we're really focused on that. And really keeping an eye on what's happening. We have a long time before next fall to hopefully this summer, maybe with, the vaccinations that are here, but not quite here, able to open up our schools in different ways this summer to allow kids tours, maybe that, that we weren't able to do last year. A tour does not have to be in May. It can be the first week of August. We can, there's a lot of things that we can do to make kids who haven't been in school, maybe by that time, a year and a half, feel excited and even ready, dare I say, to come back into a school building. And so that is something that we, are really focused on now already, and have been, quite honestly, for a couple of months. Once we got sort of over, I don't think I slept until November from March. And so we had a little quiet time, and we are already in this planning for summer and for next fall already. And so that is definitely one of the things that we're focused on. So we will, I hope, have lots of ideas and plans and options for families as we get closer to, summer and fall.
And then can I ask you just a question, just in terms of curriculum, like honestly, my son has been doing distance learning, and I mean, as challenging as it's been, I have seen the continuity and the consistency in instruction. And so, and I see he's excited to log in every morning to be in class, and it's super active participant and is looking forward to it. But I know it's a challenge for the teachers to figure out how to deliver the curriculum, via a screen all the time, And so in terms of like the pacing and thinking about, I don't know how that compares to what's happening for the hybrid kids, and so can you talk a little bit about how does that look in terms of like the pacing, the curriculum, how it's been sort of adjusted? Does it mirror what's happening with the hybrid kids? Is it a little different for DTLA kids? Just so that I can sort of have an understanding of how the year is sort of progressing for them in that area.
Yeah, and it's hard to say in every instance. I mean, there's definitely some variance from classroom to classroom and school to school. But one of the things I would say is that most of our DTLA teachers, and you heard, Jamie and Mariah talk about it, they talk to each other, but they also work with their grade levels. So most of our DTLA and hybrid teachers, even if they're not teaching in the same model, they are meeting with them, planning with them, talking with them. So they're closer in line than you might think, because there is that planning. I think in some instances, some of our DTLA teachers will actually say they're a little bit further ahead, not very much though. When we poll our principals and we poll our grade levels, it's very close. And so I think, working through the curriculum, we seem to be doing a fairly decent job of at all grade levels really getting through. Will we be able to do everything that we used to do? No, but in some instances, I think we're doing some things maybe even better, and learning new things and new ways of teaching, and maybe also realizing that it's not always about so much content. It's really about the learning and the exploration and the struggle and the inquiry and some of these other skills that we really want our kids to have. I think, well, I'm worried too, because I have 4 children and I worry about the long-term impacts of this whole pandemic. I see a new flexibility and resiliency in my children that I didn't see before. And so I think there are a lot of positives that will potentially come out of the pandemic as well. My kids don't miss a beat. 2-hour delay, snow day, distance learning day, back to school day. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And they just roll with it, and they do it. And so I think too, we will be prepared at every grade level next year. We're working, on this idea of acceleration, and how do we keep moving forward while filling in gaps that students might have when they come to us next fall. So we're already engaged in that work as well. The Connecticut Center for School Change is doing a wonderful workshop for administrators in the month of March, and we're going to have a whole cohort of principals and assistant principals and myself and many central office administrators attending that workshop to really focus on how to focus on the standards and how to really accelerate learning for students as we come out of the pandemic. So we will be prepared to lead that work as, you know, administrators. And, you know, our hope will be that, you know, while we recognize that kids may be a bit behind where they usually are, that we will be able to, you know, within a year's time, get everybody, you know, back on track. So that's our hope. And we're working hard to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And to all the teachers, like I see the endless amount of hours and time and work that is going into this. And so, as a family, we really truly appreciate it and value it. And, you know, when we picked this model, we knew that, I mean, we 100% put our efforts and time into supporting and being collaborative to ensure that we were setting the teacher, the class, and my son for success. So we appreciate it. So thank you to all the teachers who are working so hard.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Because I had two more on my own too, but I didn't want to spend the rest of the time just on my questions. So.
I do, but ask yours first. I already asked a question.
Thanks, Gina. I guess the first question I wanted to ask is for Esther, and I apologize if you kind of touched on this during your presentation. I was multitasking and trying to get people in and everything, so I apologize. But I'm curious because you are teaching hybrid and distance students at the same time. How is that going? Like, just in general, and do you see a difference between the students who are coming into the school and the students that are staying at home all the time?
I actually appreciate it more. It makes it more cohesive because now everyone is coming to school every day and we're all on the same track. It makes it a lot easier for me to teach, and planning is a lot easier, because with hybrid, when we didn't have them coming in at the, like on the off days, I would have to repeat a lesson, and then so on. If there's any inclement weather or anything happen, then we would be off track in that sense. So it makes it a lot more cohesive. Do I see a difference? I don't know that I see a difference. I will tell you one little thing that I appreciate is that I get to see people's faces. I don't see faces when they're in front of me with masks on. I remember picture day, someone mentioned picture day. When one of my students took off their mask, I'm like, oh my gosh, there you are. Like I now can put a whole face together. So when they're home, I do get to see faces. So I appreciate that. I don't see a difference per se, because in a sense, they all play the same role. You know, the ones that are hybrid one day and DTLA another day. The only thing would be the students that are DTLA are not necessarily get the chance to be hybrid, but because they do connect in class with activities, you see that wall breaking, because at first it was like, okay, I'm in my own world and you're here. Do I have to talk to them? But doing activities together and things like the interview that was shown in the picture, introductions live, that helps to kind of break the barriers. So it becomes really one group of students.
Thank you. And then I had a question for Jillian as well, because I really appreciated, your honesty and, trying different things. Sometimes, sometimes they're going to be, work beyond your greatest hopes, and sometimes they're just going to fall flat. And
that's the part that you guys didn't get to see before.
Being a science teacher, I just wonder like how you do, one of the things I think about it, for middle school science is that there's a lot of hands-on work, and how do you translate that to distance?
I try a lot of things. Sometimes, I pretend I'm Bill Nye and I do it in front of the camera, and that works. And other times, we were checking acidity of rocks, and they got vinegar from their house and they got a rock from outside. And, we sort of did it that way. Today we did a bit of a Valentine's themed science project, and they knew all week for today they had to bring in a bin of water and tin foil and aluminum foil. And we made boats and we talked about buoyancy. And, they would drop their pennies in to see if it floated. So, I'm trying different things, and everyone's been really supportive of the things that we try. So sometimes they're able to do it on their end, which is incredible. And I prefer that, and they prefer it to me when we conference one-on-one, and I ask them what, can I do differently in my teaching? They're like, more experiments, like more hands-on. So the more of that I could give them, I try. And so I go through my book and I pick out the experiments that I know that we can find things in their house or they can go to the store and do on their own. And that doesn't work with everything, but it works with enough that I think it keeps them engaged and it keeps them sort of satisfied in a way.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm just, I have two. Ms. Theodora, when you have your hybrid and distance learning kids together, how are they, just the technology of it? I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. I didn't have the login info. How are they, is everyone seeing each other? How are you seeing them? Do you have a really big screen?
A lot of screens.
Okay.
I treat my entire class as if it was a distant learning class. So everybody logs on. It makes it easier for, if I'm speaking to a live student, that their mic is on so everybody can hear them. As far as screens are concerned, I have a Promethean board behind me. I have a camera. I have the camera on the computer, and I have a backup computer, and I have a split screen for my teacher computer. So I'm surrounded by screens. But that's more for my population of students also. I teach ESL. So with that comes a lot of guidance. It's a new platform for some of my students. They're new to technology, new to the language, new to me explaining something to them in a language that they don't necessarily understand. So there's a lot of effort to close the gap in that sense. But yeah, so it's broadcast to them. They're online with each other. Yeah, there's a lot of screens.
Pretty amazing, especially for ESL.
Yes, yes.
And then I guess, Mrs. Beldati, I'm wondering, it's kind of building on Nikita's question. How do we bring more of these really good ideas and methods to more schools and more teachers? Like, what can the central office do to, encourage, incentivize?
So I think PT Council is a great way to, it's a great venue really for PTOs and for parents to share those ideas. And then, that's where, we can hear about them. Mrs. Asaro's on here this evening. I'm on here. We can bring the ideas, back to principals, across the district, who I said before, we do meet with at least weekly, if not almost 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week, depending on the topics that we have going on. And so those are opportunities for us to, share those ideas and best practices. I mean, we have, huge discussions about things like, how are we going to do Valentine's Day, and so we could certainly do one around how can we, more actively engage our DTLA students in opportunities for social interactions, and have, principals share things that are happening in their school, and then, encourage others to give them a try. So that can be a future drop-in topic, from after the winter break that we can set up. And I can share, and Angela and I can share some of the ideas from this evening. And I'm sure there are many, many, many more. I know we have 4 superstar teachers on here this evening, and that's why they're here. But there are lots of other, ideas and things that are happening in many of our schools that I think, can be highlighted and shared and spark ideas in other people. So we will follow up on some of the ideas from tonight, and some of I hear I think overall this has been a really positive night with, parents that are very happy with their choice in DTLA and pretty satisfied with the experience that their children are getting. Really energizing teachers here tonight that are passionate about the work that they do. But the one theme that I think has come out for me is that we really need to, while the teachers have created a community, I think, with their students, we need to make sure that those students feel that they have opportunities to be connected with one another. And that's really, really important. And so we absolutely can help, make sure that can happen for all of our DTLA students.
Well, thank you. As a parent who was supervising a first grader doing distance learning from December until just last week, I know that I would have been perfectly happy to have, everybody on a lunch meet and, listen and just, there was one point when the teacher had because she was teaching from home and she had some technical issues and she dropped out, and all the students, each one, we can't hear you. You're frozen. You're frozen. You're frozen. And finally I said, guys, I think she's having some technical problems and, let's just be patient. She'll probably come back. And then they just all sat there and said nothing to each other. And finally, because we were just about to have a snow day, I was like, so what are you guys going to be doing tomorrow when it snows? And then they just all started talking to each other until she got back on. So, there are just ways to get them talking to each other and I hope I didn't do anything wrong by that. I mean, I was just trying to keep them occupied until.
No, I think that's great. And it's funny, if you're on a meeting with a bunch of adults and the host has an issue, the adults sit there quietly too and wait. It's very like no one talks. It's hysterical to me that, usually like a principal's meeting is like you can't get people to shut up. No one pays attention. And there's all these sidebar conversations, not anymore on Zoom. Everybody's like super quiet and everyone's focused because you can't really have a sidebar unless you use the chat to, or your cell phone, I guess, to text with somebody, but not that it's a very different type of engagement, right? It's one voice at a time. You can't really talk over people on Zoom. So it's, you did exactly the right thing though. I'm a language person. So, always engage people in language, right? Miss Theodore, right? We always want to improve oral language, especially amongst a group of first graders. That's perfect.
Right. This has been really, I'm glad that we, shared some ideas and, kind of heard some of the challenges that people are having and hopefully can find solutions to help with some of those challenges. So I really appreciate everyone who's been here tonight as, a panelist and here to listen and ask questions and raised issues. Amy, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
Everyone, our parents, our teachers, this year has not been easy. I think we all recognize that. But again, I'm going to tear up. Everything that our teachers have done really this year is just, as a parent, I'm just incredibly grateful for. So, we really do appreciate it. Did you have a comment, Mariah?
Yeah, I just wanted to share something that was, super creative that one of the moms in my class did. Going back to basically the whole connection between the children. Her son's birthday was coming up. It had already passed in December. And what she did was she asked me if I could send an email out to, again, we're AM and PM, so to the PM class, as those were the students he knew well, and see if anybody was willing to share their address that she was going to send them like a little party kit. And she had actually a Zoom party on a Saturday afternoon. And she sent it to all the different kiddos, the different kiddos' houses. She invited me. She invited my 3-year-old son. We both logged in, and it was super, super cute, and allowed them to get out of their element a little. My class tends to be pretty honest anyways and open, but she had a scavenger hunt in there, and I played into it, like, I can't find this, oh my goodness, where is this? And she had an activity where we crafted a pillow, and then at the end she played a movie and allowed, if anybody wanted to stay on, they can stay on and watch the movie. If not, they can log off. And just that in itself, I know that, unfortunately that falls on the parents per se. But it was a great idea and a great opportunity for them to get out of the classroom per se. Although I was still there, and I was like, sorry to bum you guys out, Ms. Collins still here. But they loved it, and it was great. And I gave her a lot of credit for doing that, getting these addresses, and everybody was, on board. Everyone loved the idea. These parents were like, yeah, of course, we'll be there. Yeah, send her our address. And, it was really cute. And it was just a little side idea that I kind of wanted to share with everyone. Again, like I said, I know it technically isn't something that we could do as a school per se, but it was really neat, and it was really sweet. And even the fact that she invited my son, I talk about him to the class because I want them to realize that I'm real. I'm not just a face behind a computer. And so they know about Declan. They know it's his birthday tomorrow. And we just have such a great community, and I don't know, I don't know what else to say. It's just been great. And it was really sweet. And I don't know, I don't want to tear up myself, but I know it's hard. It's such a rough time right now, but these kids are so real, and they're so raw and honest. And there's times when I even had technology glitches, and I came back in at one point, and I heard one of the students, obviously everybody was talking. I heard one of the students say, well, we won't be able to hear each other if everybody keeps talking. So everybody go on mute, and then one at a time we'll talk. And I just was cracking up, and I was like, hey, here's the boss of the class. But they know how to figure out. They know our schedules and how these meetings work. So I don't know, it was pretty fabulous to hear that, and super cute. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Mariah. And yes, I've seen, 6-year-olds do Zoom much better than some 55-year-olds. So they know how to mute themselves in a way that older people sometimes can't. And
Yeah.
I'm one of the older people.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it's very important.
Anyway, thank you all for being here tonight. Again, we really appreciate you sharing and being here. Thanks. I don't know what else to say. We really appreciate you. We appreciate our parents being here to, share their experiences, and parents who are here asking questions. Hopefully, we can learn from this, and we'll put this up hopefully on our website too, if we can figure out how to do it, so that if you have friends who want to take a look, we'll put it up here. So thanks again. Thanks
Thank
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
night.
Good night.
Good night.